a game, whether it's a charge or a block or a deflection that was wrong or a foul that should have been called that wasn't called or vice versa. Give me a 48-minute report. And people that will understand that there's so many mistakes that the referees make over the course of the game that referees, ready folks, don't decide the outcome.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
How fragile are these guys? It's amazing. They're supposed to be the greatest athletes in the world, and yet they can't walk and chew gum at the same time without getting hurt, for goodness sakes.
That Trout injury really is a bummer, too, because people thought he was going to have a big year. And I look, I don't feel bad for the Angels. I don't like Mike Trout in Anaheim. I thought he should have left when his contract was up.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Devastating loss to Georgia Tech, where they made significant coaching errors, but Miami, with all of these changes, obviously looking to churn over this roster and upgrade the talent level.
Don't sleep on Rick Pitino. Listen, at the end of the day, the portal is the portal, Mike. Don't matter where you came from, it's where you're going and how much money can you get.
Inside the transfer portal, only on SportsGrid.
And now you have to qualify, and these majors, you got to go do it, man. Like, and it just comes off really petty to sit up there and be like, I'm not.
You know what you signed up for, so I don't like the pettiness. I 100% think Taylor Gooch should be in the major championships. Mm-hmm. So in the same note, I'm saying this, but also it's like, hey, this is the world in which we live in right now, and you don't deserve anything.
Only on SportsGrid.
Well, the Boston Celtics survived. And my 30-1 to win the championship is probably like 50-1 now. So you guys can get in on it. I don't think they're done in this series, though, to be honest.
I don't either.
They just showed they can play with them. They can play with them. Like, you know what I mean? So the game's going to be close. The Pacers really are good at home, too. So, like, the Pacers will win at home. I think this is going to be a long, fun series. It's a long game. So the game goes over the number. The Pacers cover the number, which isn't bad, actually. That was a really nice score for us. That's the good news. Bad news is I'm on the Dodgers, and they're losing 2-0 to the D-backs right now. Good news is Joe Madden joins us. How you doing, Joe?
Yes.
I'm doing good. I was doing better before I found out the Dodgers were losing. I had that game in the back of my mind watching this Boston Celtics one. So that's no good. 2-0? Yeah.
That's only 2-0. Not the end of the world.
It's early.
But how about this? Not only losing 2-0, they're getting no hit.
Wow.
Still early, but we're in the fourth inning. The Dodgers don't have a hit. They've batted 3 times, so we're in the top of the fourth right now. The Dodgers have batted 3 times. They don't have a hit yet. Whatever. Like, it's, for the record, the Dodgers are plus 190 right now. I think it's pretty good odds, actually, considering how much baseball is left in this game. They're plus 1.5, plus 105 if you guys want to jump in on the run line. But I'll just stand pat with the Dodgers at minus 160. So NBA basketball, the game is done. The Celtics get it done. Fun game, wild game. Wild game tonight. Pacers had their opportunities late, man, to close out the game, and they didn't. They might live to regret this. You've got to find ways to, like, not just hang around, but to actually win these games. 133 to 128 was the final score. Tomorrow night, we got the Dallas Mavericks and the Minnesota Timberwolves. The T-Wolves are 4-point favorites, Joe, against the Mavericks. The total is 208. And as far as the series price is concerned, right now the Mavericks are plus 160. The T-Wolves are minus 190, and the updated number of the Pacers are now plus 950 against the Celtics. Minus 1,700 are the Celtics. Wow. Big changes there. So what do you think, Joe, of Dallas and Minnesota?
I love what the Minnesota Timberwolves have been able to do, but I do think in this first game here, it's tighter than that number. I'm looking at the Dallas Mavericks to be able to come out nice and strong. I'm going to grab them plus the 4 at minus 108, but I do think there's a shot that they pull off the win in Minnesota in that first game. So I'm also going to grab them plus 148 straight up on the money line. That total of 207.5, I'm a little cautious on. I really could see the defense coming to play in this one. So I'm going to stay off that total, but I do think Dallas has every opportunity of pulling off the upset in game one.
I think that I like the Minnesota Timberwolves to win the series, but I don't love them to win the series. And my deal with the Mavericks is they're all or nothing, this team, right? Like on one night, they're going to be amazing and Luka's going to score 40 and everyone else will contribute. And you'll be like, man, they're dangerous when everybody plays well. But they don't get that all the time. And even though they're better defensively than they have been in past years, Minnesota are like a complete team. Like Minnesota are good. Like Minnesota remind me, they're kind of like the Raptors a bit when the Raptors won. Like they're kind of underestimated. They've got a star player in Edwards. They've got contributors. They're physical. They're big. The Raptors were very big when they won. Everyone can talk about Kawhi Leonard, but one of the main reasons they won is because they had Gasol was a big, mean dude. They had Serge Ibaka that was really big. Like the Raptors had big, long bodies and it punished teams. I think the T-Wolves, like with Rudy Gobert, man, they're just the best defensive team and they can score as well. But Dallas can win. I mean, I think we're looking at a 7-game series, Cam. But the deal is, like I said, like you see these teams, both these teams in their last series just did the same thing where they would win a game, but then they'd get murdered in a game. And then they'd win a game and they'd get killed in a game. But I think that Minnesota can be more consistent than Dallas over 7 games, personally.
Couldn't agree with you more. I think the Minnesota Timberwolves win the whole thing this year. I think they'll beat either Boston or Indiana. Whoever comes out of the East, probably the Celtics. I love the way this team won against Denver. They were down in the game and they grinded and grinded. They're a team that believes in themselves. They've grown together. They got angrier together. You know,
they're mentally tough too, Kim. They're yes. Tough dudes. Like Edwards is a tough street, like sort of baller, tough kid. Karl Anthony Towns isn't. He's the only one, but everybody else is. That was their problem, Joe, in the past. Cat was kind of soft. Let's just be real. Good player, nice guy, almost too much of a nice guy. Now you bring in like Gobert. Gobert doesn't really get along with anybody. He's like a jerk on the court. He's a great defensive player. Cauley's been around forever. Naz Reid's amazing, Cam. Is a 6-man, too. This guy, like, big body, brings a lot to the table. Lot to like about the T-Wolves, but on the other hand, Joe, Luka Doncic's a badass, and Kyrie Irving's pretty good, too. So, it should be a fun series.
Right? I'm going to be looking at Kyrie for those threes because he really paid off taking his threes in the last series there. And I do think he comes out nice and strong in this one as well. I know it's going to be hard against the Timberwolves, but I do think they put the more pressure on Luka out there and they kind of allow Kyrie to get free, and PJ Washington as well. I like his point total over in that first game. It's 12.5 at minus 102 to the over.
I'm seeing right now.
I would say if Dallas wins the first game, Gabe, because that series price is a lot for Minnesota, despite me loving them, and I think they win the West and the championship. If they go down to Dallas the first game, I think that's the way you can attack it, get a better number, because I think they can come back.
Yeah, I don't think they should be minus 190 either. But exactly. It goes to show, though, the odds makers respect the T-Wolves and actually think they could win, like, for real. Dude, they just beat the defending champions.
Yep.
Right, in their own building. They came back from 20 down. You want to talk about resiliency and tough? So, like, they're showing it. And I liked it was funny in their press conference. I was talking earlier about the Vancouver Canucks, sort of like, I got to learn how to lose and all that type of stuff to move forward. And somebody asked the T-Wolves in the press conference after the game to Cat and Edwards, they said, man, you guys are doing this pretty fast. It came together pretty fast. And Karl Anthony Towns started laughing. He goes, pretty fast. He goes, I've been on this team 9 years. We were terrible. He goes, fast. Really he goes, this is not fast at all. And then he goes, in fact, the entire organization has sucked for 20 years. Like he was laughing. He goes, we've been terrible for 20 years. He goes, I've been here 9 years. We've been terrible. And Edwards, he goes, I've been here 2 years. We lost in the playoffs. And Edwards had a good line. He goes, how much do you want me to lose before I'm going to win? He goes, I'm done losing.
The Timberwolves were good with Wally Szczerbiak and Kevin Garnett.
Yeah.
Like, we're all
They were good
now.
like in the early 2000s, man. Like, that was a long time ago. Like,
damn right.
it was funny when he said that. He goes, how much you want me to lose, man? He goes, I've lost enough already.
It's true.
I want to ask you, though. I just see this popping up on the highlights here. I've been watching it a bit. I've been betting on the games a bit, getting in on the totals, on the in-game stuff. But have you bet the World Hockey Championships at all, Joe?
No, I haven't. I've been passing on it. So I just don't know enough about these players out there. What about you? You've been jumping in on totals?
Oh, yeah. No, I bet. I've been betting them. I've been betting every game. Not every, pretty much every game. I like when they're on. They're on during the day, obviously. But have you been betting the Worlds at all, Cam?
I can't lie to you. No, it's golf week, and DeChambeau came second, so I already got a long list of groceries there, and I've got to figure out what I'm going to do with these hockey futures because I got Dallas and the Rangers and all sorts of stuff. Got to do the math, Morency. I want to come out with something like you did with the Canucks, even though they didn't win. You have the spread play and everything else, so I can't lie. I have not bet that at all, not once.
Sweden are favorites right now, plus 200 to win it all. Canada are plus 250. Connor Bedard, of course, is on Team Canada. You know who's leading Team Canada, though? He's been their savior, is John Tavares of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Tavares scored. He's carrying them. He's scored a couple of really big goals for them in this tournament. I don't know, though. I think Sweden might be the right play here. Like, Canada, guys, last week Canada played Austria. They were 40-1 favorites in the game. They were winning 5-0, and they blew the lead. They went to overtime.
Every missed call, the entire game, whether it's a charge or a block or a deflection that was wrong or a foul that should have been called that wasn't called or vice versa. Give me a 48-minute report. And people that will understand that there's so many mistakes that the referees make over the course of the game that referees, ready folks, don't decide the outcome.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
How fragile are these guys? It's amazing. They're supposed to be the greatest athletes in the world, and yet they can't walk and chew gum at the same time without getting hurt, for goodness sakes.
That Trout injury really is a bummer, too, because people thought he was going to have a big year. And I don't feel bad for the Angels. I don't like Mike Trout in Anaheim. I thought he should have left when his contract was up.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Devastating loss to Georgia Tech, where they made significant coaching errors. But Miami, with all of these changes, obviously looking to churn over this roster and upgrade the talent level.
Don't sleep on Rick Pitino. Listen, at the end of the day, the portal is the portal, Mike. Don't matter where you came from, it's where you're going and how much money can you get.
Inside the transfer portal, only on SportsGrid.
And now you have to qualify, and these majors, you got to go do it, man. Like, and it just comes off really petty to sit up there and be like, I'm not.
You know what you signed up for. So I don't like the pettiness. And I 100% think Taylor Gooch should be in the major championships. So in the same note, I'm saying this, but also it's like, hey, this is the world in which we live in right now, and you don't deserve anything.
Only on SportsGrid.
This is SportsRage. I am Morency.
Amazing.
Kicking at Cam Stewart in the house. Joe Mann with us. We were talking earlier, and I said about the Phoenix Mercury giving the Aces problems, and at least getting a lot of points and being overpriced. They're winning outright. It's 62-60. It's pretty crazy. The Aces, you know what, might be time to buy into the Aces soon, actually. The Aces are laying 4.5. It's minus 220 on the money line. The Mystics are up 45-38 on the LA Sparks right now. How many points were you getting in that game?
Actually, it was they're minus 1.5 too, Gabe. So I got problems with the Sparks. They should have been.
You know what I like about the Sparks is last night they were at the Dodger game, like taking pictures and throwing out first pitches and stuff.
Really? I didn't see. That's good information to know. I had no idea.
Thinking, you guys haven't won yet. You're hanging out with Otani and like, yeah, exactly.
That's good. That's good.
I'll remember that losing right now. Yeah.
I saw that. I saw the picture with Cameron Brand. People are like, wow. Because Otani's so big, and they were the same height standing next to each other.
Good.
But I actually thought, I was like, you guys have a game. It's kind of a weird night to pick the night before a game. Like, I would have preferred more of an off day. But, hey, it is what it is. Okay, so we got Rick Saratella coming up in about 15 minutes. A lot of football talking. Rick now works with the Edmonton Elks. And for real, he's been hunkered down, man, in Edmonton and Commonwealth Stadium for the last couple of weeks. Joins us from Commonwealth Stadium. And CFL season set to begin, Joe, around the corner. We're 2 weeks away. The preseason started this week. The regular season starts in 2 Thursdays, which is really cool. I'm glad. The Canucks game, it sort of carried over. There's not much of a lull now. CFL football is nearly here.
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic to have the CFL out there, Gabe. Who do you think can take it all this year? Grey Cup? What are you thinking? Chad Kelly.
BC.
It's going to be in BC this year, isn't it?
It is in BC this year, and I'm not just saying that, but the BC Lions have been really good for a couple of years. They've really built something up and learning how to, you got to learn how to lose before you win. They've lost 2 years in a row in the conference championship game, right? They keep losing to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. So they just need to beat the Blue Bombers. And how do they do that? They need to get home field advantage. They keep on going to Winnipeg all the time, and or they get hurt. They've had bad luck. I think this is the year it comes together. Their owner has a lot of money. He's very aggressive. The Grey Cup is in Vancouver. There's no secret. It's going to be hell or high water. They get into this game. All right. And let's just be real too. What I like about this, you're getting plus 600 for them. And guys, look at the West, Cam. The Calgary Stampeders aren't what they used to be, bro. They're just not, right? Their win total 6.5. So maybe they go over the win total. Maybe they go over 6.5. But the Jake Meyer experiment hasn't worked out. He's just he looked good as a backup, and he's got a strong arm, but he doesn't read things well. The Stamps are kind of in limbo. The Elks were terrible, right? But I think they're getting better, right? They bring in Bethel Thompson. They got Trey Ford. They got a good quarterback stable situation. They've got a lot more talent now, the Elks. They're trying, so I think the Elks will be competitive, but not as good as Winnipeg and BC is. And then you look at the East. It's kind of a train wreck. The Argos aren't the same. They lost Willette. They don't have Chad Kelly. It's not the same. The Argos, they won't be as good. The Ottawa are always bad. Let's just call it out for what it is. Sorry, Ottawa. And no, it's true, Cam. It's they're always the same.
You're right. Every year, it's the same story. Always trust the Red Blacks.
But every 5 years, they'll surprise you and win the championship. Yeah. Let's give them credit for that.
What about Montreal?
They have won 3 times in the last 8 years or something. Ottawa, it's surprising, or 10 years.
Montreal showed a lot of grit last year, Gabe. They were big pooches.
Montreal, they're good again too. They're good again.
I agree.
They're the team to beat in the East. Mm-hmm. But I'm just saying, guys, from the betting, it's great odds. It's gonna be BC and freaking Winnipeg in one game to go to the Grey Cup, and then if BC wins the game, they're gonna be hosting the game. Right. So to me, that's the play, guys. But what's the play, Joe, with the Rangers and Panthers? Who wins the series?
I think the Rangers win it, but I think it's all the way in 7. It's going to be an absolute battle between those two. I do have a couple of different bets that I'm taking for that series. I think we're going to see a lot of overtimes in that one. I'm taking 2+ overtime games. That's at plus 165. And I'm going to put a little bit on 3+ overtime games as well. That's at plus 750.
Wow.
There's so much value there with that one. And then I'm also going to take Igor Shesterkin to record a shutout. 1+ shutouts for Igor is plus 205. I do think we see a lot of low-scoring battles out here, and he has every opportunity of getting that shutout. His goals against average is a 2.4 in the playoffs here and a 9.23 save percentage. So I'm looking for Igor to come out really strong. The books think Bobrovsky has a better chance of getting that shutout. His shutout, one or more shutouts, is coming in at plus 154. But I think it's Igor. I have more faith in him out there, you guys.
You know, a bet that I hit in the Oilers and the Canucks was over 5.5 games in the series. So I like these total series, game props. Looking at this one, to go 7 is plus 200. Panthers, Rangers. I'd like a little bit more, plus 250 or something. But like over 5.5 games, guys, is minus 190. So you got to lay 90 cents, but I'd be very surprised if the Panthers and Rangers was decided 4 games to 1.
I couldn't
4
agree
games
more.
to 2 is a possibility, but I'll lay the 90 cents, Cam. It sucks, but sometimes you got to lay a price to get a good bet. But I'll lay the 90 cents that this series goes over 5.5 games.
I don't know how it goes under that. It's either going to go 6 or 7. Like, these teams are very evenly matched, and I'd be shocked and absolutely blown away if it goes 5. I don't even know who wins, Gabe. Maybe take both teams to win in 7. Look for the plus price. Joe bet it. This thing goes the distance. It's amazing. It's going to be a great series.
You can parlay together. They're letting me parlay it, actually. So I could do over 5.5 games in both series. Over 5.5 games in Dallas, Edmonton, Joe, and over 5.5 games in the Rangers and the Panthers. Over 5.5 games is minus 200 in the Edmonton series. The total is plus 120. It's plus 128. The parlay now. So the series total here, 5.5 and 5.5 plus 128. I'm going to play this actually. I'd rather do this than lay 190 and 200. I'll just do them both. They're both. I'd be shocked if either one of them is only 5-game series. 6-4-2 is the common score. That could happen, but we'll win the bet. Plus 128. I'm going to get this bet in now. Plus 128. Both series go over 5.5. We'll get Joe Madden's Dallas and Edmonton pick, as well as Cam's on the other side.
Every missed call, the entire game, whether it's a charge or a block or a deflection that was wrong or a foul that should have been called that wasn't called or vice versa. Give me a 48-minute report. And people that will understand that there's so many mistakes that the referees make over the course of the game that referees, ready folks, don't decide the outcome.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
How fragile are these guys? It's amazing. They're supposed to be the greatest athletes in the world, and yet they can't walk and chew gum at the same time without getting hurt, for goodness sakes.
That Trout injury really is a bummer too, because people thought he was going to have a big year. And I look, I don't feel bad for the Angels. I don't like Mike Trout in Anaheim. I thought he should have left when his contract was up.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Devastating loss to Georgia Tech, where they made significant coaching errors, but Miami, with all of these changes, obviously looking to churn over this roster and upgrade the talent level.
Don't sleep on Rick Pitino. Listen, at the end of the day, the portal is the portal, Mike. Don't matter where you came from, it's where you're going and how much money can you get.
Inside the transfer portal, only on SportsGrid.
And now you have to qualify, and these majors, you got to go do it, man. And it just comes off really petty to sit up there and be like, I'm not.
You know what you signed up for. So I don't like the pettiness, and I 100% think Taylor Gooch should be in the major championships. So in the same note, I'm saying this, but also it's like, hey, this is the world in which we live in right now, and you don't deserve anything.
Only on SportsGrid.
This is SportsRage. I am Morency. Rick Saratelli is going to join us in a couple of minutes. 3-1 D-backs right now, middle of the fifth. 3-1 D-backs. They're currently minus 230. Dodgers are plus 180 on the money line. The Rockies are up 4-2 on the A's right now in the bottom of the 7th inning. So Edmonton and Dallas, we were talking about it earlier with McInnes. And McInnes thinks the Oilers can play with the Dallas Stars. Cam, you've already got futures in on the Dallas Stars. Yep. And you want to stand pat. In fact, you got a Dallas Star Ranger correct Stanley Cup final, which would be an awesome hit if it comes through. I don't know if it does. My gut's telling me the Panthers going to beat the Rangers, actually.
I'm with you. That's why I'm hedging out of that one. I think the Panthers can beat the Rangers
I'm going to say it's the
7.
Panthers and Oilers. That's my prediction. Panthers, Oilers.
I'm going to go Panthers Stars. It would be, but that's probably people would be in Canada really pissed off. I can tell you that. Another Canadian team now. We got Dallas and Florida. Like people will lose their minds here. But right
another
I'm thinking
NASCAR
about that.
Cup final.
Yeah, that's NASCAR final. But Edmonton, you said it though. They're a very dangerous team. Not as deep as Dallas. If they get any type of goaltending, it could go the distance. But I'm staying put, Gabe. Dallas in 6 for me. I think the Stars are just a little bit deeper for these guys, and they got a lot of savvy veterans and good young players, and I think they can play.
So I'll say the Panthers win the series and the Oilers win the series. Joe, what do you think about the Oilers and the Stars?
I'm on the Stars. I do take the Stars to win in 5 and in 6. I put half a unit on both, plus 270 in 5 and plus 194 in 6 games there. I think Wyatt Johnson comes out really strong in this series. Again, 3+ goals for him coming in at plus 125. I look at Edmonton here, and it's still the question marks on Stuart Skinner in net. And I look at what Dallas was able to do to Colorado and to the Winnipeg Jets, and they were absolutely able to shut down the offenses of both of those teams. With them shutting down Nathan McKinnon out there on the ice, I just have to think they're going to be able to shut down Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid as well. This team defensively is playing so tough. Evan Bouchard, though, we have to tip our hat to him of the Edmonton Oilers. He was able to get 20 points in the first 2 series, which is the most of a defenseman out there. So I do think Evan Bouchard is going to be phenomenal. We've got great defenses going against each other. Edmonton's really stepped up defensively. So while I think game 1 might be higher scoring, because I think Edmonton controls it, I'm looking for some lower scoring games of this series.
Bouchard has put up Bobby Orr, Paul Coffey type of numbers. Like, it's pretty crazy. Like, I saw his points per game average it was like next to Bobby Orr type of deal. Like, it was like in all-time playoff hockey, he's having an incredible first 2 rounds. That slap shot is just unstoppable. It really is. I mean, best slap shot in the NHL by far. How it comes in and it rises, goes top shelf, like goalies are just helpless. There's not enough time to react to it. So all you can do is try to hope that it hits you or that he misses the net on it, and or if it gets blocked and gets hit. But the problem is, you'll notice, nobody really wants to get in front of his slap shot.
No, you're going to be done with the playoffs.
Like people, like they'll turn and it's just instinct because it's like it's coming in at 102 miles an hour. So you're like, oh my God, right? No one wants to come in face first at him. Like, what are you going to do?
God, no. I would turtle.
Man, he can tee it up. Like, there was one, like, last night, I'm still hearing it off the bar last night. That was the one thing, like, my takeaway. It was the 3rd goal of the game, which was kind of the dagger. He just blasted it. It was like, ding. It was like off the post. It was so loud, too. Like, I was at the other end, and I heard it, like, so loud. I was like, dear God, what are you going to do? Right? What are you going to do? But Seelaw's made some crazy saves in that game. All right, so tomorrow night, 8 o'clock Eastern, Florida Panthers, minus 115 over the New York Rangers. It's going to be a fun series. One thing we should know, too, listen, New York fans are great. They travel to begin with, but there's New Yorkers everywhere, right? Like, but there's no more New Yorkers in any state than there is in Florida. So it'll be interesting. Ranger fans are going to take over the building in Florida.
It's a good call. They made those Carolina
right? Like,
kids
it's going to be like Rangers game. Rangers home games in both. Like, I'm telling you.
Those guys are everywhere.
They all live
there. Off the kids. Yeah, it's a good call.
And the tickets are cheaper, too. They have money, New Yorkers. So they'll just buy the tickets, right? And Panther fans will sell their tickets. So I would expect a ton of Ranger fans, like, all over the place. But there's something about Florida. You know, I've been saying to Rangers, I mean, they're such toss-ups. My bet is, guys, I like that parlay. Plus 128. Both series over 5.5 games.
I agree with you. 6 and 7.
Good enough.
Can't go wrong with plus money. Thank you, Joe.
Every missed call, the entire game, whether it's a charge or a block or a deflection that was wrong or a foul that should have been called that wasn't called or vice versa. Give me a 48-minute report. And people that will understand that there's so many mistakes that the referees make over the course of the game that referees, ready folks, don't decide the outcome.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
How fragile are these guys? It's amazing. They're supposed to be the greatest athletes in the world, and yet they can't walk and chew gum at the same time without getting hurt, for goodness sakes.
That Trout injury really is a bummer too, because people thought he was going to have a big year. And I look, I don't feel bad for the Angels. I don't like Mike Trout in Anaheim. I thought he should have left when his contract was up.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Devastating loss to Georgia Tech, where they made significant coaching errors. But Miami, with all of these changes, obviously looking to churn over this roster and upgrade the talent level.
Don't sleep on Rick Pitino. Listen, at the end of the day, the portal is the portal, Mike. Don't matter where you came from, it's where you're going and how much money can you get.
Inside the transfer portal, only on SportsGrid.
And now you have to qualify, and these majors, you got to go do it, man. Like, and it just comes off really petty to sit up there and be like, I'm not.
You know what you signed up for. So I don't like the pettiness, and I 100% think Taylor Gooch should be in the major championships. So in the same note, I'm saying this, but also it's like, hey, this is the world in which we live in right now, and you don't deserve anything.
Only on SportsGrid.
The Twisted Tuesday continues. This is Sports Rage. I am Gabriel Morency, the Pimps, the Players, the Hustlers, the Rick Saratellas, and everybody else in between. Let's do this thing. We cannot escape the city of Edmonton as the Edmonton Oilers eliminate the Vancouver Canucks. And our boy, normally living on the Jersey Shore in New Jersey, has spent the last couple of weeks in Edmonton. And a great time to do it, as the Edmonton Oilers are in the middle of a playoff run. And, of course, Rick Saratella, founder of the NFL Draft Bible, All Access Football.com, now working with the Edmonton Elks, baby. Let's do this thing, Rick. Always a pleasure, man. Good to see you.
Oh, baby, buckle up. The city is on fire. You know, I was talking to you guys last week when I just got in town, had a week now to kind of marinate, get out there to White Avenue and OTR and all the good spots here in Edmonton, and the fans are great. And also, I learned this factoid. Maybe Gabriel Morency knows the answer to what year it was, but I've been told by the locals, only one year in the history of Edmonton sports, the City of Champions, have the Oilers and the Eskimos won the championship in the same year. So we're going to try and keep that hope alive this year.
I like it. I like your attitude. And I'll tell you what, the CFL preseason has begun. The regular season's creeping up on us, man. A little more than it's like 2 weeks away right now, and I'm fired up. And I'll tell you, man, the Rough Riders look good against the Bombers. They were airing it out, high level football actually for the first preseason game. A lot of excitement in the air for the CFL kickoff. And how you feeling right now as you see the Edmonton Elks up close? You're getting a feel for this team. What's the vibe like? What's the feeling of the team like as these guys come together?
Well, I tell you, we are in that team building process, right? So you mentioned the Saskatchewan-Winnipeg preseason game. We had our little team pizza party. We all huddled up and watched the game. Now, keep in mind, Saskatchewan is coming to Edmonton. So that first game against Winnipeg, they played their starters because they're going to be playing their backups against us. Winnipeg did not have their starters. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're watching
two preseason games in the CFL. So they'll play them in the first game and not the second game.
Correct. And so, for example, our second preseason game, we're not bringing a lot of our starters on the road. And so the first game, you'll get a taste of some of the starters. And I think it all starts up top with McLeod Bethel Thompson, right? You talk about a game changer, but also someone who comes in and sets the tone when it comes to the culture inside of the facility. And this guy is always striving for perfection, always striving for excellence. And he's not afraid to call somebody out and hold them accountable. And I think everybody follows from his leadership. So when you talk about, 34 players from last year that were first or second players, we have that nucleus back. We had the top draft pick. We actually had the supplemental draft today and took Antonio Alfano, a 5-star recruit out of Alabama, was at Colorado, finished up at Lackawanna, but he would have been the number 1 pick in the CFL draft. We just got him out of the supplemental draft. We brought in Cole McDonald from Hawaii, so we're constantly trying to turn over the bottom of the roster. Shane Hooks was down there at Jackson State with Shedeur Sanders, finished up at Auburn. We flew him up the other day. So it's exciting, man.
And you know what? You're like a kid in a candy store because you know all these players. And I'll tell you, there's a lot of player transactions in the CFL. A lot of scouting, as you're finding out, going on, right? They're always looking for that diamond in the rough that can fit into the league. And we have the NFL OTAs going on as well. And, you and I spent so much time talking about the NFL draft, and we spent so much time talking about Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, J.J. McCarthy, all these quarterbacks. People have already sort of forgotten about and given up on Bryce Young after 1 year in the league. And I don't know if that's fair to do that. So their OTAs are going on right now. And I was a big fan of what Dave Canales did with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I didn't really know much about this guy. And I'm watching Buck games, and I'm thinking, man, this guy's play calling is impeccable. Seriously. The play calling of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers was top-notch. And you saw the production that Baker Mayfield had. And so Canales now working with Bryce Young and talking about they're basically starting over, completely starting over. Canales said, for me, it's all about timing and footwork. We're working on his footwork. And he said, quite frankly, he's picking up everything that we're showing him right away. I don't think Bryce Young was very well coached last year, Rick.
Well, it does come down to coaching oftentimes when quarterbacks don't pan out. And we talked about David Canales as somewhat of an unorthodox hire in terms of his background, where he came from, how he got to that position. So I think it's going to be, either you catch lightning in a bottle like Sean McVay and this thing, they're going to ride to the moon, or I think it could backfire. I don't know if there's an in-between here. It's kind of a risk-reward decision against the grain. Everything I've heard, I have not met him personally, but everything I've heard has been positive. But I think what you're seeing, you mentioned the short string or the patience, right? Probably by the fan base in Carolina there. You're seeing teams, we've talked about it, discard these first-round quarterbacks and part ways with them if it doesn't turn around real quickly. And you can only imagine how Carolina's feeling right now after watching the Houston Texans go from a bottom feeder to this year now. I think the Houston Texans are a legitimate playoff contender, and the Panthers are being picked to finish at the bottom of the pack again. So it can't make the ownership group there in Carolina, which also seems to be a mess, feel really good. And the fans are, the fans are going to let them know. But, right now, Bryce Young is their best option.
I think, though, it was almost unfair, wasn't it, that Bryce Young is going to get compared to C.J. Stroud. You and I both know, and you've been talking and telling me for years how good the Houston Texans are drafting players. Right? I mean, it's no comparison. If you look at the rosters, Carolina are terrible. And as you stated, it's bad ownership, and it trickles on down. They trade away their best players. They had good players, and they traded them away. Right? So now they got to start all over again. And they're kind of, Bryce Young's in a tough spot, though, isn't he? Because they're probably going to be bad again. Even if he's improved, they're probably going to be bad again. And then there's going to be the talk of the Shedeur Sanderses of the world.
Well, and I don't think he kind of showed enough glimpses where you were like, oh, wow, okay, this guy is really going to show us something and take his game to the next level. I thought Bryce Young struggled. There was a lot of inconsistencies. I thought the accuracy was an issue, and I don't think that they built that supporting cast right. You had Adam Thielen, for crying out loud, is like his go-to wide receiver last year. I mean, way past his prime. They don't have enough weapons. And
well, why'd they trade DJ Moore? Remember, they had DJ Moore, and they gave it to the Bears.
Yeah, they're giving players away, for a bag of chips. And so, Carolina, for whatever it's worth, when I did my 2025 mock draft, I do believe the Panthers would pick a number 1 overall.
That's what I'm saying. So even though they could be improved, I still think there's going to be some issues. Another OTA that's going on, and far from a rookie, but Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers looks healthy. He was zipping the ball around and making plays. What are your thoughts on Aaron Rodgers? Will he hold up? Will his body hold up this year? Will he get through the year as the starting quarterback of the New York Jets?
If you remember, and by the way, he did think about that RFK vice presidential candidacy he mentioned, but he's going to turn it down.
He's thinking about a lot of things, this guy. Yeah, he's got a lot in his head. He's got a lot of stuff going on up there, but he's still a good quarterback.
Yeah, no, and so, I think that because he is coming back, right, I think that he knows inside he can give it a go. If he didn't feel like his body would be able to respond, I think he would have hung up the cleats. And I'm hoping, as a football fan, that, if you remember when Brett Favre was in with the Jets gangrene for one season, it was a brutal year. And then he went to Minnesota, and the Vikings actually got the quarterback that the Jets thought they were getting. Now, Rodgers is back for a second year with Broadway green, and I think, he can really, take this team to the playoffs.
Missed call the entire game, whether it's a charge or a block or a deflection that was wrong or a foul that should have been called that wasn't called or vice versa. Give me a 48-minute report. And people that will understand that there's so many mistakes that the referees make over the course of the game that referees, ready folks, don't decide the outcome.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
How fragile are these guys? It's amazing. They're supposed to be the greatest athletes in the world, and yet they can't walk and chew gum at the same time without getting hurt, for goodness sakes.
That Trout injury really is a bummer, too, because people thought he was going to have a big year. And I don't feel bad for the Angels. I don't like Mike Trout in Anaheim. I thought he should have left when his contract was up.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Devastating loss to Georgia Tech, where they made significant coaching errors. But Miami, with all of these changes, obviously looking to churn over this roster and upgrade the talent level.
Don't sleep on Rick Pitino. Listen, at the end of the day, the portal is the portal, Mike. Don't matter where you came from, it's where you're going and how much money can you get.
Inside the transfer portal, only on SportsGrid.
And now you have to qualify, and these majors, you got to go do it, man. And it just comes off really petty to sit up there and be like, I'm not.
You know what you signed up for. So I don't like the pettiness, and I 100% think Taylor Gooch should be in the major championships. Mm-hmm. So in the same note, I'm saying this, but also it's like, hey, this is the world in which we live in right now, and you don't deserve anything.
Only on SportsGrid.
Sports Rage continues. I am Gabriel Morency. We're kicking it Sirius XM Channel 159 of the SportsGrid radio and television networks. Our boy Rick Saratella throwing it down with us in Edmonton, Alberta, as the Edmonton Oilers are advancing into the conference finals. Rick now works with the Edmonton Elk organization. Countdown to kickoff is on. CFL preseason has begun, but the regular season is like 2 weeks away, guys. So we're fired up, and we'll start to do our previews and breakdowns and all the odds. And I've got a bunch of player props, actually, quarterback props for the CFL that we'll go over. But we're talking NFL football right now. Rick Saratella in the house with us, and Rick is talking about Aaron Rodgers. And, RFK floated him out there for a potential vice presidential candidate. But he is still a football player. His future is going to be very interesting. God knows what Aaron Rodgers is going to be doing in 10 years. But this year, look, the Jets have a ton of talent. No one's going to dispute this, right? I mean, if they get quarterback play, they're a dangerous football team.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. And I like, the running back they drafted, Braylon Allen, I thought kind of flew under the radar there out of Wisconsin because he's a big, powerful, bruising back. And you pair him up with Breece Hall, who's kind of was electric. I'd look for Breece Hall to really be a big-time bust-out player.
Yeah, he's another guy. You were talking about bouncing back. Sorry, Rick, but you just said about quarterbacks. But Hall was so good, he got injured. I almost get the feeling that he could break loose again this year. That he's going to be confident that he's going to be confident in his body now that he's a year past this.
And I think that they can lean on that running game because they got a couple good running backs there. So Aaron Rodgers doesn't have to rely on his arm to wing it and fling it all the time. And I think that's going to be the secret to their success with Robert Saleh. They're going to lean on that defense. I mean, I think the Jets are going to have a top 5 defense in the National Football League this year. And if they can get Aaron Rodgers healthy, then they're a playoff team. Now, if they get those new pieces and put them into the offense and kind of, the offensive line has been upgraded. I think that's going to be the most vital element in terms of keeping Aaron Rodgers upright and healthy. But, if you notice one thing, we said a lot of ifs, right? A lot of ifs. But if half of them come true.
And it is the New York Jets. The Jets are the New York if Jets, right? If is the middle word. That's that's everything about the Jets. Well, if this happens and if it's like all New York teams. Well, if ends and buts were candies and nuts, right? This is interesting, Rick. I came across this. Team starting quarterback odds in the National Football League for week 1. So the Denver Broncos, they got 3 quarterbacks, Bo Nix, Jared Stidham, and Zach Wilson. Bo Nix is the minus 400 favorite to be the starter in week 1. Jared Stidham is plus 400. Zach Wilson is plus 900. Are you convinced that it's a stone cold lock that Bo Nix will be the starting quarterback in week 1 for the Broncos?
No, I understand why. And, we know what Jared Stidham is in a way. Zach Wilson, we understand, was brought there to kind of be a reclamation project. But if you look at what Jared Stidham did and his body of work, he got a few spot starts there, I believe, with the Raiders. And they wanted to bring him back, right? That was Josh McDaniels' guy. And Sean Payton outbid Josh McDaniels for his services. So I wouldn't put it past Jared Stidham. In fact, I would say that Stidham gives the Broncos the best chance to win out of the gates week 1. But I'll tell you, Bo Nix does have the capability of winning this starting job, and it would not surprise me if he did.
Gardner Minshew is minus 350. This one surprised me a little bit. So, the odds makers believe that Minshew will be the starting quarterback over Aiden O'Connell. Aiden O'Connell is plus 260. I think do you believe it's going to be a legitimate battle? I think it is. Are they going to let the best man, whoever the best man in camp, be the starting quarterback with the Raiders?
Yeah, I'm confused by this one, Gabe, because I've seen several interviews with Antonio Pierce and him very clearly stating that Aiden O'Connell did enough to get the first crack at this thing, and it's his job to lose. And they liked what they saw. In fact, they did not add.
I believe them, too. I think they like him for real. I think they really do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like him, too. And I think Aiden O'Connell, without a doubt, is going to – I know what Gardner Minshew is. I know he played well last season, probably the best in his career. But there's a ceiling there.
You want him as the backup. You're right.
Yeah,
I'm with you,
we
Rick.
know what Minshew is. We can always go back to Minshew. I think this is Aiden O'Connell's all day.
I agree with you at plus 260, and I've gotten into it with some Raider people who are like, oh, no. Minshew's been brought in to be the starter. I'm like, I'm not so sure about that. They needed quarterback depth. Dude, O'Connell was put in a really tough spot last year, and he battled. Like, you want to talk about getting thrown into the baptism by fire in the National Football League, he really was. And he held his own. I think he does deserve an opportunity. And a great point by you. We know what Gardner Minshew is. All right, you're going to win 9 games, 8 games, or whatever. He's going to, you're 500. Maybe Minshew's that guy you want to bring in for a spark. Or your guy goes down, you're like, all right, we've got Minshew. But you're right. I'd give O'Connell a shot. And I do believe it. I saw AP basically stating same thing in that it's a battle. He said, well, let the best man win. He goes, we're going to let this play out, but we believe in Aiden O'Connell. And he did. I believe him, too. I don't think it was just lip service. Rick Saratella kicking with us. The next one is my boy, J.J. McCarthy. This one's more of a toss-up, and it almost surprised me because, I don't know, unless J.J. McCarthy is that good, that they're like, oh, we're going to start him in week 1. But I wouldn't be shocked if they go with Sam Darnold in week 1. Sam Darnold's minus 150 only, Rick, to be the starting quarterback in week 1 for the Minnesota Vikings. J.J. McCarthy plus 120, so it's nearly a pick 'em.
Yeah, that's interesting. And again, I think they've indicated that they want to go with Darnold first or kind of ease McCarthy into when he's ready. But I'm a believer in J.J. McCarthy. Anybody who tunes into the show knows that. We've been kind of humming his praise and talking up J.J. McCarthy.
But at the same time,
So
Rick, I hear the same thing that you do, and I sort of read the tea leaves that I don't think the plan is to start him in week 1. I think they're going to let Darnold go, and they'll just sort of ease into it. But unless JJ is that good that they're like, all right, just make him the starter, right? I mean, if he's better than Darnold in camp, which I don't think he will.
And I think he is better than Sam Darnold right now today, and I do think J.J. McCarthy is under center week 1.
Wow. Okay, plus 120, says Rick Saratella. We got a couple of more. We'll squeeze it in on the other side with Rick Saratella. This is SportsRage.
Every missed call, the entire game, whether it's a charge or a block or a deflection that was wrong or a foul that should have been called that wasn't called or vice versa. Give me a 48-minute report. And people that will understand that there's so many mistakes that the referees make over the course of the game that referees, ready folks, don't decide the outcome.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
How fragile are these guys? It's amazing. They're supposed to be the greatest athletes in the world, and yet they can't walk and chew gum at the same time without getting hurt, for goodness sakes.
That Trout injury really is a bummer, too, because people thought he was going to have a big year. And I don't feel bad for the Angels. I don't like Mike Trout in Anaheim. I thought he should have left when his contract was up.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Devastating loss to Georgia Tech, where they made significant coaching errors. But Miami, with all of these changes, obviously looking to churn over this roster and upgrade the talent level.
Don't sleep on Rick Pitino. Listen, at the end of the day, the portal is the portal, Mike. Don't matter where you came from, it's where you're going and how much money can you get.
Inside the transfer portal, only on SportsGrid.
And now you have to qualify, and these majors, you got to go do it, man. Like, and it just comes off really petty to sit up there and be like, I'm not.
You know what you signed up for. So I don't like the pettiness, and I 100% think Taylor Gooch should be in the major championships.
Mm-hmm.
So in the same note, I'm saying this, but also it's like, hey, this is the world in which we live in right now, and you don't deserve anything.
Only on SportsGrid.
Never a bad time of the year to talk football, is it? We're breaking it down with Rick Saratella. We're just talking quarterback props right now. Who's going to be the starting quarterbacks in week one? And these numbers will be fluid and they will move. So we were just talking about the Minnesota Vikings situation. We've seen, man, the Vikings have been productive with various quarterbacks. If Sam Darnold is healthy and upright, I think he could be productive in that offense as well. But it's no secret how much they love J.J. McCarthy. J.J. McCarthy's a sponge. He soaks everything in. He already knows the offense as well. So he's hitting the ground off and running. But with that being stated, I still think that Darnold is probably that, in my opinion. And we all know I'm a J.J. McCarthy mark. But in my opinion, I think Darnold's probably going to be the quarterback in week one. There's New England. Listen, you could argue that this is a great bet. It's minus 400, but there's no way in hell Drake May is going to be the quarterback in week one of the Patriots. Jacoby Brissett is minus 400, or am I crazy? Drake May's plus 300. Could Drake May be the quarterback, the most raw guy out of all these guys we talk about? Rick, what's your take on New England?
Well, if there's an injury to Jacoby Brissett, I suppose so. But to me, I don't think Drake May is ready. He seems more of a developmental guy. I don't think he's ready for live bullets. And Jacoby Brissett, much like a Gardner Minshew, is a guy with, probably close to 50 starts under his belt, I would guess. So you have a guy who's not going to make you look bad. And I think that Brissett will be in there as long as they're competitive. If they go 0-4, 0-5 out of the gates, at that point, it's like, hey, let's just hand the keys to the kid.
Yeah, great point. Once again by Rick Saratella. The New York Giants actually have odds up on this. Daniel Jones to be the starting quarterback in week one, minus 600. Drew Lock, plus 400. So, listen, Daniel Jones isn't going to lose his job to Drew Lock in his last year here. Maybe down the road, Drew Lock can be the quarterback. And or Daniel Jones' health isn't exactly the sturdiest. So from a betting perspective, I almost think Drew Lock's worth a play, plus 400, solely that, hey, Daniel Jones gets hurt in training camp, preseason, and whatnot. It can't go in week one.
Yeah, and again, keep in mind, Daniel Jones is not the Joe Shane, Brian Daboll quarterback selection, right? There's no ties. There's no allegiance. We talked about how they felt burnt,
You're right,
as Rich Eisen said. And so what I've heard, Gabe, and from very reliable sources, is they love Drew Lock inside that building. I mean, there's a lot of love for Drew Lock. So I would not be surprised if he's the week one starter, either by performance or by injury. And don't forget, Nathan Rourke is over there, eh?
Our boy Nate Rourke. What do you think? That's a good way to end this. We got about 2 minutes here. What do you think about Nathan Rourke? He was lighting it up. He lit it up in the CFL. The BC Lions gave him an opportunity. He was the most outstanding offensive player. And he could make about $1 million, right, a year to be a quarterback in the CFL. He's making about, it was like $800K type thing, offers out there, 700, 800. He wasn't making that then, but he's making about 550 now as a practice roster guy. Do you think he'll ever catch on in the NFL?
I do, because we had Nathan Rourke when I worked at the NFLPA Collegiate Bowl All-Star Game, and he looked like he belonged. Now, I know he doesn't have the ideal size, but he does have the skill set to play in the NFL, and I do think he's doing the right thing because he's trying to fulfill his dream. And if it doesn't work out for Nathan Rourke, he could go back to the Canadian Football League, probably still play a decade plus in the league if he desires, but I think it's a great spot for him to be in, because both Drew Lock and Daniel Jones, as we just alluded to, are both injury prone. So he may get his opportunity this year, but I agree with what he's doing, and I'm rooting for the kid.
It's a good point. When he went with Jacksonville, kind of a tough spot to go to, isn't it? Trevor Lawrence is the quarterback, point blank. And then boom, next to that, C.J. Beathard was good friends with Trevor Lawrence. And they liked the synergy of not rocking the boat. And they were like, and they actually thought Beth was okay. But now they bring in Mac Jones. So we saw with Peterson, even though Rourke had a great preseason and he made some great plays and stuff, dude, he got cut a couple of days after, right? Peterson, like, really, I don't know why Rourke signed there, like, if Peterson really didn't have any interest in him. But great point that you raised as far as the Giants are concerned. You got Daniel Jones and Drew Lock there. Like, you could stick and actually be a third-string quarterback. Practice roster, third-string quarterback, right? You're not competing with Mac Jones and first-round draft picks and stuff like that.